Tansin itute mag-TR Wheatley ni Sigasun o Pascuyacuche. Tawao, welcome to APTN National News. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations has just released their response to the KPMG forensic audit published last week. They say KPMG's claims that some COVID-19 expenditures were questionable are baseless and ignore FSIN's work to protect elders, children, and families. The statement also said the audit has led to unwarranted attacks against FSIN and heightened racial tensions. More on this story tonight on the evening newscast. And it was a sea of orange on Parliament Hill on Tuesday as hundreds gathered for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. APTN's Fraser Needham was there.
The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation event typically attracts a broad cross-section of people: Indigenous, non-Indigenous, young and old. One of those people was Cody Coyote, who works with youth. He says there's no shortage of things a young person can learn by attending an event like this.
Right, so whatever they might hear today, whether it's a story from speaking with some of the survivors that are here, or maybe the program, my hope is that they're going to carry that with them, and then they're going to share it with the ones that are coming up after them, and that sort of thing.
At the same time, Coyote says with it being a decade since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its final report, he worries progress is not moving fast enough.
In order for reconciliation, for that word to have any meaning, there needs to be reconciliation. There needs to be the prioritization of the 94 calls to action from the TRC. Like, if we're looking at things and how many have been implemented since it initially was released, like why is it taking so long?
The art of the Anishinaabe territory.
Residential school survivor Richard Ejanaguzi Kistabish was also at the event and was one of the keynote speakers. He says he has been speaking about the legacy of residential schools since he left one in the mid-1960s. But it's only recently that non-Indigenous Canadians have begun to take notice.
At the beginning, I was just me alone doing all these celebrations because I wanted to talk about the issue of residential school and the impact that creates in our community. So at the beginning, I have only one person who attend my conference. Today, it's 1 million. It's amazing. This is crazy.
Ejanagusi Kistabush adds the thing about the National Day is you never know who you might have to tell the story to.
Like me this morning, I was wearing this T-shirt, and someone came from Japan, I guess. He looked like a Japanese or a Chinese guy. And he says, what's the 215 means? He saw my number. So I have to tell that story.
Governor General Mary Simon and Prime Minister Mark Carney were also keynote speakers at Tuesday's event. Carney says Canada cannot rebuild its economy without Indigenous people as equal partners.
Well, it's vital that we build. It's more important. It is vital how we build. With Indigenous leadership, Indigenous prosperity, Indigenous opportunity. These must be foundational from the start.
I am making a need you now.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
And Winnipeg's Orange Shirt Day Walk saw thousands of people come out in support of residential school survivors. Sav Jonzo was at the 5th annual walk and brings us the story through the eyes of a survivor.
While he watches the crowd go by at one of the largest Orange Shirt Day walks in Canada, this residential school survivor is lost for words.
Right now, I can't say nothing because I'm overwhelmed with a compassion.
It's a staggering experience to be part of as thousands of people take over downtown Winnipeg in commemoration of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. The 5th annual Orange Shirt Day Healing Walk-in Powwow was held by the Southern Chiefs organization in honor of residential school survivors and their families. The Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement recognized 14 schools in Manitoba, first operating in 1886, with the last one closing in 1988. Elder Lawrence Douglas Corbier says it was one of the hardest experiences of his life.
I went to residential school. It was rough. It was hard. I was strapped. I was put in the hallway to say I was stupid.
Despite years of healing, Corbier still feels some responsibility for what he went through.
Half of it was my fault because I didn't listen to my parents to go to bed. I stayed up late, and when I went to school, I fell asleep on my desk, which was wrong. I should have went to bed early, like my mom told me.
Those walking in support of survivors like Corbier made their way from a pipe ceremony at the Forks down one of Winnipeg's busiest streets to the RBC Convention Centre for a powwow. Many First Nations leaders in Manitoba attended, including Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew in his regalia. The large space was filled to the brim with people from all walks of life wearing their orange shirts proudly. Powwow dancers, young and old, showed that their culture was not lost despite the genocidal goals of residential school. Corbier says he's grateful that so many people, including non-Indigenous folks, came out to support National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
I've seen a lot of people. It blesses my heart. Now my compassion and my weeping is gone.
Sav Jones, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
In Eskasoni, First Nation youth and elders honored survivors of residential schools while sharing about the importance of saving the Mi'kmaq language. With more, here's Angel Moore.
I'm here at the Eskasoni Mi'kmaq Nation, Unama'ki, Mi'kmaq for Cape Breton, where about 50 people walk through the middle of the community to this monument that honors survivors and Rita Joe's poem, I Lost My Talk, which is about how the Shubenacadie Indian Residential School forbid children from speaking Mi'kmaq and the hope that the language will never be lost. That is 15-year-old Chrissy Gould. She speaks fluent Mi'kmaq and represents Eskasoni as the queen of the 2025 Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Summer Games. She offers advice to the youth.
We need to seek our elders and our people all over Unama'ki to be able to learn the language and understand it so we can pass it down to next generations to come.
Gloria Gould is a survivor. She says today is about never forgetting and protecting the Mi'kmaq language.
Young people should honor their grandparents, make sure they keep on talking the Mi'kmaq language, especially to the younger ones. Never forget that you are Mi'kmaq, and the language is a very, very important thing to remember, to read, to teach, and to not to lose that language.
As emotional as the day is, Chrissy says it's important to remember and honor the survivors.
Even it may be hard for our survivors to come out and speak about what they've been through, but it's important to know because it's history. We need to remember what happened and it won't happen again.
This monument was placed here by community members over 10 years ago, and it continues to be a place of reflection and memory for all of them. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Eskasoni, Unama'ki.
The town of Stony Plain, Alberta, about half an hour west of Edmonton, also hosted a large Truth and Reconciliation event. APTN's Chris Stewart was there.
300 seats were not enough at Stony Plains Heritage Park this morning. It was standing room only as the community honored this important day. A wide assortment of ages were here, from infants to elders.
It's a time for our community to come together, to listen, learn, honor, and connect. Over the past several years, we've been gathering as our commitment to truth and reconciliation grows. More and more people are gathering.
Those here heard stories of how residential schools impacted them and their previous generations. 16-year-old Métis Inuit student Frances read her poem on remembering the past.
Today means to me, other than it's my sister's birthday, and so we have that, but it's also a day that we celebrate about my ancestors, about what they did, and of how we can move on from what has happened and allow that to help build us a better future.
And Juno-nominated Ojibwe artist Sterling John and his band performed to the delight of the crowd.
Some of the speeches today about the residential schools and how people were affected by that when we're sitting there listening, I'm like, We're All Children is the song that I need to share on this. That was the first song we did today, and it really speaks about that relationship between children and their parents, and the importance of what happened, back in the day where kids have been ripped apart from their families. So yeah, it's important to be part of the conversation, and we're proud to do it.
The event wrapped up with tea and bannock. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Stony Plain, Alberta.
And we take you to Montreal for an art exhibit when we come back. Cheskwa. Pitigwe, a highway renaming ceremony on Kaguahistagao First Nation in Saskatchewan was held last week to honor the chief who founded the community. CTV's Fruzina Declute explains.
A historic day for Kakavishtaha First Nation.
But I just want to make sure that everyone understands that this is a beautiful small win today.
The win, a sign marking the new name of Highway 201. The road is now called Chief Kakavishtaha Way.
It's been a long time coming, a couple years back, but we worked together with the representatives from Sask Highways as well as our First Nation to officially launch this today, and it's a good day for Chief Kakavishtaha.
Chief Kakavishtaha signed Treaty 4 in 1874 and is remembered as someone who brought peace in a time of war.
He left us a legacy to keep fulfilling, and here we are, 118 years later, ensuring that he was not forgotten and that his legacy is still remembered. So Chief Kakavishtaha was a good chief and a good man.
The idea of renaming Highway 201 came from Chief Audit a few years ago, and he found a partner in the provincial government.
There was a committee put together involving local communities, the town of Broadview, the arm of El Capo, and the provincial government. And the recommendation that came back from that committee was unanimous, that this highway actually take on that name, be named in honor of Chief Kakavishtaha, and we're happy to do that. And
the MLA says Saskatchewan is really quite impressive when it comes to road signs honoring Indigenous individuals.
And that serves as a constant reminder that we're all treaty people. It serves as a reminder of the relationship, the treaty relationship that Saskatchewan is built on.
Driving home the importance of reconciliation. Fruzina Declute, CTV News, Kakavishtaha First Nation.
The Montreal Museum of Fine Arts is hosting the largest solo exhibition to date by Cree artist Kent Monkman. It brings together more than 40 paintings that challenge colonial perspectives. Stephanie DeSive reports.
So in this painting, The Prophecy, Ken Monkman is really encouraging us to understand a longer genealogy of queer Indigenous peoples, Two-Spirit peoples, all the way going into the pictograms in stone, or in this case, in concrete.
The Prophecy is one of 40 paintings by Kent Monkman on display at Montreal's Museum of Fine Arts.
Just because we don't necessarily have many queer Indigenous representation from the 19th and early 20th century in art history, that doesn't mean that that all of us didn't exist.
The exhibition is entitled "History is Painted by the Victors." The curator, Leuli Esragi, explains how the art challenges colonial narratives.
We have over 40 paintings, especially in the history painting style, by Kent Monkman. Some of them are really monumental and grandiose. And across all of these works, we are confronting difficult colonial histories.
They explain how non-native artists in historical paintings have omitted the Indigenous presence. The paintings served as a propaganda tool for colonial expansion.
Across these paintings, we're witnessing Indigenous peoples, queer peoples, brought back into landscape paintings that often omitted and erased.
Kent Monkman is a multidisciplinary artist.
I wanted young people, I wanted Indigenous people to see themselves in my work.
And a member of the Oshekwe-Sipi Fisher River Cree Nation in Manitoba.
Miss Chief Eagle Testicle, I created her 20 plus years ago. As a way to reverse the gaze.
This queer character is prominent throughout Monkman's work.
I wanted to create a character that could live in Cree worldview, that inhabits that space with our other legendary beings, with our trickster, with our little people, the thunder beings, with Sagachak, Piesawak.
According to Monkman, Ms. Chief's role is to reveal truth, advance history, and recognize the diversity of sexualities.
Why do we have homophobia in our communities when traditionally we have a place for queer, two-spirit people, gender-fluid people?
The exhibition was first on display at the Denver Art Museum last spring, where Monkman's work was shown to the American public for the first time. Denver's Art Museum's curator found it important to showcase Monkman's work.
We have to understand that the way that we're reacting to anything that we see is through the lenses of our own experience, through the way that we were raised, our education, our family life, our own past traumas.
The curator hopes the public will question the reasons for the feelings that arise.
And when they feel a particular way, they can really look internally, think about why they interpreted something in that way, and learn more about themselves in the process.
Now Montreal's public is invited to lose themselves in the artist's immense canvases.
So there's a really deep embrace of histories that are important for all of us through this exhibition. And it's not all dark, but it is a very powerful exhibition.
The public can meet Ms. Chief throughout the exhibition. Histories painted by the victors is on display at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts from September 27th to March 8, 2026. Stéphanie Desèvres, APTN National News, Montréal.
And we bring you an interview with the man behind the Reconciliation Canada organization when we come back. Jessica. Welcome back. Charlottetown 9 degrees, Fredericton 11. Kuujjuaq 6, Nain also 6. Chibougamau 5, Saguenay 7. North Bay 8, Sault Ste. Marie 11. Big Trout Lake 13, Wawa 9. Churchill 12, God's Lake 17. Barons River 19, Brandon 20. North Battleford 9, Regina 15. Uranium City 10, La Ronge 16. Moving west, High Level 16, Peace River 12. Edmonton 19, Lethbridge 17. Bella Coola 8, Campbell River 11. Dease Lake 9, Smithers 10. Up north, Old Crow 0, Mayo 6. Norman Wells 7, Port Simpson 17. Tuktoyaktuk 2, Colville Lake 4. Cambridge Bay 1, Chesterfield 5. Resolute -7, Iqaluit 2. Over to Vancouver now, where APTN's Tina House had a chance to sit down with Gwawai Nook Hereditary Chief Robert Joseph ahead of September 30th. In part one of a two-part interview, Chief Joseph talks about the Reconciliation Canada organization and why it was important to create it.
Tansei, I'm Tina House. I'm so honored to be joined by Chief Bobby Joseph today from Reconciliation Canada. Chief, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. We're approaching a date where we're going to be celebrating survivors and the history of healing among our people, and so many things. With the Orange Shirt Day, of course, and National Truth and Reconciliation Day.
And a very important day that was started in 2021. Tell me, what has happened since that National Day was enacted here across the country?
A lot has happened, absolutely. We've begun in the early stages to turn things around that seem to be stuck in the past, like transitioning from fairness and justice and love and embracing and recognizing each other. I think what we've done is awaken the soul of Canada. Canadians now are very conscious that we've gone through a process of truth and reconciliation. We recognize what that history is, and we recognize the impacts that it had on survivors of residential schools. And most people, all segments of society, have demonstrated some interest to respond in some way to that horrific legacy that we all share in this country. And so it bodes well for people to come. Bodes well, especially for Indigenous people, and it bodes well for Canada. And beyond that, beyond our own borders, when people see people having the ability to acknowledge each other, care for each other, lift each other up, love each other up, this world will be a better place, and we sure need that right now.
And the world is a better place mostly because of your work too. I mean, you have been in the front lines leading the charge to get this recognition. Tell me about those early developments and your fight to get here.
Yeah, I'm so blessed. I think for a long time in my life, I searched endlessly for some reason for being or purpose in my life. And I grew to be fairly older, and then I stumbled on this process that began to manifest everywhere that eventually led to the establishment of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the apology by the Prime Minister, eventually the Pope, and eventually all the churches, and even civil society in their groups were all beginning to acknowledge what had happened between us, and they all expressed regret and expressed a desire for us to work together in some way. So we were able to, just at the right moment, bring forward that idea of reconciliation. And I remember I was on a national committee where we had been charged with bringing about a public inquiry. We came to a moment where we suddenly recognized that the former Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, would never go for a public inquiry, and suddenly we talked about truth and reconciliation. And so we, on that national committee, we started to put together a framework on what that might look like, how the organization would look, what they would do, and how we would implement it. And it's just snowball from there. It kept going. It has had its own life and direction and speed. And one of the things that we always knew we wanted was that it would be a people's commission, belonging to the people, not government, not church or anybody else, but we, the people of every color, race, and creed, would sit down together and think about this noble idea of being better to each other through a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And so it was easy because it was new. There were no holes barred. We talked about anything we could, about how we thought things would improve between all of us in this country. And so here we are, and we now celebrate these key moments, Orange Shirt Day, Truth and Reconciliation Day, and other things.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Wednesday, October 1st. I'm TR Wheatley. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. Join me again at 6 p.m. Eastern for our evening newscast. Until then, from all of us at APTN to all of you, Egase, Kitam, Kikawapa Mitinano.